Have you ever wondered about the most enigmatic visions in the Bible? Today, we will explore one of the most impactful and complex, the vision of the prophet Ezekiel. This fascinating text, full of symbolism, presents divine creatures and, at its heart, a system of wheels that defies our understanding, pointing to something far beyond the ordinary. This topic is of extreme relevance to you, as Ezekiel's vision is not just an ancient story. It offers profound insights into the nature of God, His sovereignty, and His active presence amidst chaos and exile. Understanding these images can strengthen your faith and your perception of divine control over the universe. In this video, we will address the context of Ezekiel's vision, delve into the detailed description of the creatures and the wheels, and finally understand how all this connects to the throne of God. We won't make promises of revealed secrets, but rather an analysis based on the biblical text and consolidated theological studies for a genuine understanding. My approach is based on years of study and dedication to the Holy Scriptures, always seeking the most faithful and respectful interpretation of the texts. I will present you with perspectives that invite reflection and deeper understanding without sensationalism, but with due respect for the depth of the material. To truly appreciate the magnitude of what Ezekiel witnessed, it is crucial that you first understand the historical period and the prophet's personal circumstances. This will give us the necessary foundation to contextualize the extraordinary images he describes, preparing the ground for our journey. Ezekiel received his visions while in Babylonian exile, around 593 BC. He was a priest taken captive along with other Jews after the first deportation from Jerusalem. This period was one of profound crisis and despair for the people of Israel, who felt abandoned by God and far from their homeland and the temple. In this scenario of desolation and uncertainty, Ezekiel's prophecy emerges with a message of hope and, paradoxically, of judgment. His visions, often shocking and bizarre, were intended to reassert God's sovereignty, even outside Jerusalem, and to prepare the people for a future of restoration and spiritual renewal, which you will need to consider. It is fundamental that you understand that prophetic visions, especially apocalyptic ones like Ezekiel's, are full of symbolism. They should not be read in a purely literal way, but as visual representations of spiritual and divine realities that transcend common human language. Imagine you are living in a foreign country, your culture and faith under attack, and suddenly you have a vision that challenges all your understanding of reality. This is how Ezekiel must have felt, witnessing something that broke the limits of his perception and human knowledge. This context of exile and the symbolic nature of prophecy are key to unraveling the mysteries that Ezekiel presents to us. Now that we have set the scene, you are ready to delve into the most intriguing details of his first and most famous vision. The appearance of the glory of God. In Ezekiel chapter 1, we are confronted with the initial description of an overwhelming vision. Ezekiel sees 4 living creatures, each with 4 faces and 4 wings, emerging from a whirlwind of wind and fire. This image is the first layer of mystery, introducing a divine choreography of great power and majesty. The 4 living creatures, later identified as cherubim, had the appearance of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. Their faces pointed in the 4 directions, and their wings were extended upwards and downwards. They moved with impressive speed, like lightning, indicating their transcendent nature and divine agility. The function of these beings is to be guardians of God's holiness and executors of His will. They symbolize the omniscience, power, strength, and speed of divine action in the world. The complexity of their forms aims to communicate a glory that is multifaceted and beyond human capacity to conceive in simple terms. It is crucial to recognize that, although Ezekiel provides us with vivid visual details, the language he uses to describe the vision is limited by human capabilities. It is not a photograph of God, but a symbolic revelation that teaches us about His attributes and not about His physical form. The description of the living creatures is only a prelude to something even more extraordinary. For alongside these impressive creatures, Ezekiel witnesses a mechanical spiritual element that seems to defy the laws of physics: the wheels. This is the point where the mystery truly deepens. Delving into the living creatures, note that each had 4 faces, one of a man in front, one of a lion on the right, one of an ox on the left, and one of an eagle behind. This combination of faces symbolizes the totality and perfection of creation and God's governance over it, representing wisdom, strength, service, and dominion. You will notice that each being also had 4 wings. 2 wings extended upward, touching the wings of the adjacent being, forming a protective canopy. The other 2 wings covered their bodies. This covering of the wings suggests reverence and protection before the glory of God, an act of humility amidst their power. Their movement was equally fascinating. They did not turn as they walked, but went straight forward in any of the 4 directions the Spirit impelled them. This direct and unhesitating movement points to the immediacy and precision of the divine will, acting without impediments or deviations. Some scholars suggest that the 4 faces may represent the main classes of living beings or the ideal characteristics of leadership: man as reason, the lion as royalty, the ox as service, and the eagle as vision. However, the consensus is that they point to the majesty and omnipresence of God, who manifests in multiple forms. The complexity and coordination of these living creatures serve to illustrate divine order and the power that sustains the universe. However, the vision does not stop here. The true depth of the mystery is revealed in the peculiar structure that accompanies these beings, the enigmatic wheels, inseparable from their function. Directly associated with each of the 4 living creatures, Ezekiel describes the wheels, known in Hebrew as Ophanim. These were not ordinary wheels. They were structures of incredible complexity, described as a wheel within a wheel, with tall rims full of eyes, creating a truly supernatural vision. Imagine the scene, a wheel that intersects with another at a right angle, creating a mechanism that allows movement in any direction without the need to turn. Their appearance shone like beryl, a precious mineral, and their rims were terrifying, perhaps due to their height and the vastness of eyes covering them. The ability of these wheels to move wherever the spirit moved, without ever turning or deviating, is the core of the mystery. This suggests perfect coordination and absolute obedience to the divine will. They possess no inertia or resistance, moving with total freedom and control by the power of God. It is important to recognize that attempting to replicate this engineering with our physical understanding is futile. The purpose of the description is not to provide a mechanical blueprint, but to communicate the omnipotence and omnipresence of God, whose glory is manifested through mechanisms that transcend material reality. This enigma of the wheels, with their interconnection and perfect movement, invites us to go beyond a literal interpretation. It prepares us to understand that the unity and direction of these structures are not random, but are intrinsically linked to a greater force that animates them, which is the Spirit of God. The secret behind the impeccable movement of the living creatures and the wheels is revealed. The spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. This statement is fundamental for you to understand the essence of the vision. There is no mechanical or physical force that moves them, but a divine spiritual energy that animates and directs them. This intimate connection between the spirit, the living creatures, and the wheels demonstrates perfect unity and coordination in the execution of God's will. The Ruach, spirit that impelled the cherubim, also impelled the wheels, ensuring they moved in perfect harmony and direction, without hesitation or error. Imagine an orchestra where every instrument and every musician is in perfect tune, guided by a single invisible conductor, producing a celestial symphony. Such is the movement described by Ezekiel, a complex divine dance, totally submitted and impelled by the presence and command of the Holy Spirit. This theological revelation has profound implications. God's sovereignty is not static, but dynamic and active throughout the universe. He not only created, but also sustains and directs everything through His Spirit. You can trust that there is a divine purpose and direction, even when the world seems chaotic. With this understanding of the spiritual engine that drives this complex celestial machinery, we are now led to observe what rises above all this glory. For Ezekiel's vision does not end with the wheels, but ascends to an even more sublime level, revealing the very firmament and the throne of God. Above the heads of the living creatures, Ezekiel describes something like a firmament or an expanse, shining like awesome crystal. This firmament is not the atmospheric sky, but a vast and glorious surface that serves as a platform or base for the even greater manifestation of divine glory. This crystalline expanse creates a separation between the living creatures with their wheels and what is above, elevating the experience to a new level of holiness and transcendence. The intense brightness and awesome appearance suggest the purity and inaccessibility of the divine presence, which you are invited to contemplate. From above the firmament, Ezekiel hears a sound like the roar of many waters, or like the voice of the Almighty, or like the roar of an army. These powerful sounds intensify the atmosphere of majesty and reverence, preparing the prophet and you for the ultimate revelation yet to come. It is vital that you avoid the temptation to visualize these scenes literally. Ezekiel's language is symbolic, attempting to describe the indescribable. The crystalline firmament and the powerful sounds serve to build an image of grandeur that challenges the limits of human perception and points to spiritual reality. This elevation of the scene from the ground where the wheels move to the platform above progressively guides us to the culmination of the vision. Now, with the stage set and the deafening sound in the air, we are ready to witness the central point of the entire revelation, the throne of God. Finally, above the crystalline firmament, Ezekiel sees something like a throne, with the appearance of sapphire. This is the centerpiece of the vision, the manifestation of God's authority and dominion. The sapphire throne evokes images of majesty, purity, and inestimable value, worthy of the sovereign of the universe. Upon the throne, Ezekiel sees a figure with the appearance of a man. However, this figure is not an ordinary man. From his waist up, he seemed like brilliant fire, and from the waist down he was like blazing fire, surrounded by a radiance. This is the glory of the Lord, a visible manifestation of the divine presence. You will also notice the description of a rainbow around the figure seated on the throne, like the appearance of the rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day. The rainbow is a biblical symbol of covenant and faithfulness, recalling God's promise and the hope of restoration, even amidst his justice. It is crucial that you understand that this is not a physical description of God. The Bible states that God is spirit and does not possess a bodily form. The appearance of a man and the fire are metaphors and anthropomorphisms used so that Ezekiel and we could comprehend something of his immense unattainable glory and power. This vision of the throne and the glory of God is the culmination of the entire mystery. The living creatures and the wheels serve as the divine chariot, a means for the manifestation and mobility of God's sovereignty. Now that you have witnessed this magnificence, it is time to consider what all this means for your life today. Ezekiel's vision, with its complex wheels and glorious throne, offers us practical steps for understanding faith. First, approach the text with humility, recognizing the limits of the human mind to comprehend the divine. Prayer and careful study are essential to discern deep spiritual truths. For an in-depth interpretation, you should always cross-reference with other biblical passages, For example, the figure like a man on the throne is prefigured in other theophanies and finds its fulfillment in Jesus Christ, the Son of Man, who is the image of the invisible God. Ezekiel's vision is a powerful reaffirmation of God's sovereignty. Even in exile, at a time of profound crisis for Israel, God reveals that his throne is not fixed in Jerusalem, but is mobile and active throughout the universe. This should bring you comfort and hope that God is in control, regardless of circumstances. Avoid, however, the temptation to interpret Ezekiel's vision as a blueprint for spaceships or advanced technology, as some pseudo-scientific theories suggest. Such interpretations divert focus from its theological purpose, which is the revelation of God's glory and majesty, not technological advancement. With this understanding of its application and meaning, we are led to a conclusion that reinforces the genuine value of studying such complex passages. What will you do with this revelation of God's unwavering sovereignty? This leads us to the final reflection on Ezekiel's enduring message. We have reached the end of our journey through Ezekiel's visions. The central message you should take away is that of God's unwavering sovereignty. His throne is active, his presence is universal, and he governs all things with power and purpose, even in the darkest moments of human history. If you wish to delve deeper, I recommend exploring biblical commentaries by authors such as John B. Taylor or Daniel Block, who offer rich theological insights. These legitimate resources can expand your understanding and provide additional perspectives on the book of Ezekiel and its profound truths. Be realistic about expected outcomes. You will not have a literal and complete understanding of the vision, as it transcends the human mind. However, you can expect growth in your faith, a renewed sense of awe for God's glory, and greater confidence in his sovereign control over your life. I invite you to share your reflections on Ezekiel's vision in the comments. What aspects surprised you most or provoked your mind? Your authentic engagement helps build a community of study and faith, where we can learn and grow together in God's Word. May this revelation of God's chariot throne inspire you to live with deeper faith and unwavering hope. Remember that the same God who revealed himself to Ezekiel is present and active in your life today, governing with infinite wisdom, justice, and love.